You know, millions of us have had a CT scan at some point. It's an incredible, life-saving medical tool. But a huge new study is shedding light on a hidden side to this technology, a side we really need to talk about.
So let's just dive right in. The core of this whole thing is a really important question. We know CT scans are amazing at diagnosing problems and saving lives every single day. But what if that incredible power comes with a hidden, long-term cost? It's really all about that classic balancing act between benefit and harm.
So what is that potential cost we're talking about? Well, the researchers behind this study landed on this number, 103,000. And get this, that's the estimated number of future cancers that could pop up from the CT scans done in the United States in just one single year. That is a staggering figure, so let's unpack exactly how they got there.
Okay, so to really get our heads around a number that big, we first have to understand the sheer scale of how often we use CT imaging. I mean, the volume is just immense.
Think about this for a second. In 2023 alone, there were an estimated 93 million CT exams performed in the U.S. That's not 93 million people, that's 93 million individual scans.
Now, those scans were given to about 62 million patients. That includes both adults and children. So right away, you can see that a lot of people are getting more than one scan.
And I just have to say it again, this isn't data from over a decade or something. This is all happening within a single year. That massive, widespread use is exactly how a tiny individual risk can snowball into a really significant public health issue. But here's where it gets really interesting. Who is getting all these scans? As you can see, people of all ages get them, but the numbers absolutely skyrocket for adults between 60 and 79 years old. This concentration in older populations is a super critical piece of the puzzle, and we're going to see why in just a moment. All right, so we've got the scale, millions upon millions of scans, but how does a diagnostic image, a picture of your insides, actually translate into a cancer risk? Well, the answer is in the physics of the machine itself. You see, CT scanners use something called ionizing radiation, and the key word there is ionizing. It means the energy is so powerful it can literally knock tiny electrons right out of your atoms. When that happens inside your body's cells, it can damage your DNA. And, as we all know, damaged DNA is a major risk factor for cancer.
So how did the researchers connect all those dots? I mean, this wasn't just a guess. They followed a really rigorous three-step process. First, they figured out the sheer number and types of scans being done. Then, and this is the cool part, they used a giant international database to estimate the specific radiation dose each organ gets from each type of scan. And finally, they plugged all that data into risk models from the National Cancer Institute to project the lifetime cancer risk. Pretty thorough, right?
Okay, so now that we know how they did it, we can get into the really juicy stuff in this study. The data shows pretty clearly that this risk isn't spread out evenly at all. Certain people and certain scans carry a much bigger weight.
And this brings us to what I think is a crucial paradox. On a one-to-one basis, for a single scan, children are actually more sensitive to radiation and face a higher individual risk. But, and this is a huge but, because adults get so many more scans, remember that huge spike in the 60 to 79 group? They end up accounting for a whopping 91% of all the projected cancers. It's a classic case of volume over vulnerability.
The risk also changes a lot depending on which part of your body gets scanned. And it turns out scans of the abdomen and pelvis are the single biggest contributor here. They're responsible for almost 40% of all the projected cancers. That's a huge slice of the pie, and it's due to a combination of how often these scans are done and the radiation doses involved.
And finally, the types of cancer that are projected are actually different for adults and for kids. For adults, lung and colon cancer are at the top of the list, but for children, the single most frequent projected cancer is thyroid cancer. It makes up a massive portion of their total risk, which is a really important distinction.
Okay, so we've got the number, we understand the mechanism, and we see who is most affected. But what does 103,000 future cancers really mean in the grand scheme of things? We got to put this risk into some real-world perspective. The study projects that if we keep doing scans at the rate we're going now, cancers caused by CT scans could eventually make up 5% of all new cancer diagnoses in the U.S. every single year. So just how significant is that 5%? Well, check this out. It's almost the same as the cancer risk from alcohol consumption. And it's not that far behind the risk from excess body weight. When you see it like that, it really elevates this issue from what might seem like a minor concern into a major public health conversation.
Now, the goal of this research is absolutely not to scare people away from getting medical care they need. Far from it. The conclusion here is actually really positive and empowering. It's all about moving toward a future where we use this amazing technology in a smarter, safer way.
And this quote from the study pretty much says it all. The authors say the path forward is built on two key ideas. First is justification of use, basically making double sure that every single scan is truly necessary. And second is optimization of dose, always using the lowest possible radiation dose to get the job done. And they stress that these ideas have to be applied uncompromisingly, no cutting corners.
And that really brings us to the final critical question this research leaves us with. A question for both patients and doctors. Some studies suggest that maybe up to half of all CT scans might not provide much clinical benefit. So asking, is this scan truly necessary, isn't about avoiding care. It's about making sure we get the best and the safest care possible.